Hello and welcome to the Justice Factor. After 2009, Bekicele became the face of a tough new SA police services. Then he was let go by President Jacob Zuma following the SAPS headquarters lease scandal. Is he better? What is he doing now? Former police commissioner and now ANC National Executive Committee member Bekicele joins me today. After that discussion, we'll give you, as usual, our winner and loser of the week. But first, did Police Minister Nathi Mthethwa give us false statistics when he released crime figures last week? What can we do now that murder is on the increase? Institute for Security Studies senior researcher Lizette Lancaster joins me now to discuss the increase in murder and other crime figures. Lizette, welcome to the show. I have to ask you, given the total, the overall numbers, are we winning this war against crime?
Unfortunately, this year it looks like we are doing a little bit worse than we did in the past. The past decade have seen dramatic drops in most crimes. But this year we are starting to see a tide that is turning, and we are seeing a couple more increases than we would like, and we are seeing a plateauing of other crimes that should have followed a downward trend.
Can we believe these numbers? I mean, murder up by 0.6%. Your institute says actually the way we compile and compare these numbers is actually wrong, and that these numbers may be incorrect.
Yeah, we've calculated that we can add about 2% to all those numbers. And it's
so
really,
you'd say to me murder is probably up by 2.6%?
It's actually up by 2.8%.
Wow. That means that hundreds more people were killed in this past year that we're looking at than in the year before.
We can see from the raw figures, the incidents, the number of incidents released by SAPS, that 650 more people were killed this past financial year than the year before.
That's not the story of hope that Ria Pierre spoke about when she released these numbers.
I think where it becomes really difficult to be hopeful is that murder tells one story, but the robberies we are seeing, the things that the crimes we really fear in our houses and in our streets are the ones that are also going up. We are seeing increases in robberies, from street robberies, business robberies, as well as house robberies.
Let me go back to this point that you made about these numbers, that we could add at about 2% to many of them. What's wrong with the way these statistics were compiled? What makes the minister and the commissioner stand up and say 0.6% increase when it's 2.8% increase?
Look, I think it is a technical issue that was very difficult for them to handle in any case. Between the last release of the crime stats in September last year and this year, we had the census data release of 2011. And what those said is that there is like 1 million people more than what we counted before. So those impact dramatically on the crime rates as we calculate them per 100,000 people. So it's a statistical comparison that now becomes the issue, in that if you want to compare last year's statistics to this year's statistics, and although they're on paper, on black and white, they say, for instance, murder being 30.9. When we calculate it with 1 million people in, we are actually seeing 30.3. So I reckon what they thought was they couldn't claim those wins last year when we saw a little bit more decreases than, with the 1 million added. So this year, what they did was they compared what they had on paper last year to what they had with the new census data now. And unfortunately, when you start adding 1 million in, the situation becomes different when you look at the rates. It looks a bit better, yes.
You're saying they cooked these books?
I don't say they cooked these books. I said that they were between a rock and a hard place. And I think what they decided to do is perhaps not the wisest way to have gone about it.
Then the minister should have listened to statisticians who would say to him, actually, this is the way to do it. Why aren't they doing it? Do you know? Do you have an answer?
I think they need to tell us why they decided not to trust us with new recalculated crime rates for last year. I don't know what happens behind closed doors, unfortunately, but I think the public deserves all the statistics, and they deserve to make up their own minds.
Let's look at the frequency of these. So every year there's one big press conference and then we have these numbers, but they're actually 18 months out of date. Why aren't they being released more frequently? And what would they do if they were released more frequently?
Yes, that's one of those funny ironies that when we had, on the 18th of September, we hadn't seen crime statistics for 18 months. On the 19th, we received new crime statistics. They were 6 months out of date. We saw an upward trend in robberies. Now, we don't know if those robberies are continuing to increase in our community. So we don't know how to handle that in terms of crime prevention. The problem is that there's so much hype around one release once a year that I think if the police can realize that, you know, people just want to be safer, and if we trust them with, if people are trusted with their own crime statistics, that we can then make decisions for our communities and interventions. And then there won't be this seemingly political play, you know, with the crime statistics that you know, and this hype.
Can the SAPS, does it have the ability to actually release the statistics frequently, say monthly as they do, and I think your institute has said in Bogota in Colombia, where it showed that people started acting on this.
New York,
can we
UK.
do it?
I think so, and I think, you know, one doesn't have to start with a weekly thing. One can do, you know, 6 monthly, work towards quarterly, but the systems are live, the CAS system for the police, and, you know, it gets updated 24 hours.
So
every 24
I could
hours.
know that, you know, within the past 48 hours, hijackings are on the increase, and then I'd be more careful.
Yes, if you draw the trends for, say, a month or two, and that's exactly what we are asking, that communities are empowered to help their police members to fight crime. If you don't give them that information, they will become, you know, apathetic and not involved. But
Absolutely
if you empower
right.
them and tell them it's their problem, you will have partners for life.
Yeah. Lizette Lancaster, that's all we have time for. Thanks so much for coming through.
Justice.
And I hope these numbers will finally belong to the people of South Africa, not just to the politicians and the police.
Exactly.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
After the break, we ask Bheki Cele if he misses his job as police commissioner.
News that moves. ENCA.com.